Hello, fellow Gnostic sex cultists. Happy Tuesday. Well, guys, we're having a little bit of a nitwits kind of week. Normally on The Cult, which is the show I stream Monday through Friday on this here YouTube channel, on X, the platform formerly known as Twitter, and on Rumble. We normally do deep dives into the far left, but I'm going to be honest, I need a little breaky break. Sometimes I need a breaky break. Sometimes you guys need a breaky break too. And, we're really lucky because the environment that we've been existing in for the past couple days has just been so rife with drama. Now I want to take you back to yesterday, Monday. And I got to tell you guys, every Tuesday night I do a show called Nothing Remotely Controversial on my stream. And I bring on Joshua the Psychic, he is a real live psychic. He's been a practicing professional psychic for over 20 years. He is freakishly accurate, and people make fun of me when I bring on a psychic, and some people say, you are trading in the devil's cards and all this stuff, and they get all freaked out about it. But when I say that, I actually do believe psychic stuff exists. I really do. And I do believe that I'm deeply intuitive. It's how I know things that I have no business knowing. It's how I am able to predict things that other people on the internet are not able to predict. Not that everyone doesn't have these abilities, because everyone does, but I did a lot of psychedelics to blow my third eye wide open, and so mine are pretty honed. They're not as honed as Joshua's. Joshua is like next level psychic. But I bring this up because yesterday I had a tweet go viral, but it wasn't a tweet that I sent yesterday. It was a tweet that I sent back in November. Back in November. And Jake Shields was just one of many people who retweeted it. Because back in November, on November 16th, 2023, to be exact, but 1 month and a week after the tragedy of October 7th, when everyone on the conservative right was losing their minds, when Dave Rubin was calling around to people's jobs, demanding they be fired, or at least strongly insinuating it, if they didn't take the right position on Israel, when everyone was pretending that we weren't seeing a genocide in Gaza, and if you dared say that we were seeing a genocide in Gaza, then you were a leftist and you were associated with BLM. Do you guys remember when, I'm sorry, I respect him, but do you guys remember when Chris Russo tried to shield this narrative? I remember. Because it is true that the far left does support Palestine. It is true that the far left are the ones that are organizing the pro-Hamas protests. All that's true. But then people on the conservative right, and yeah, Chris Rufo is one of them, and he gets a lot of stuff right, but not everything right. And he started trying to convince people that if you were on the side of Palestine, or even if you acknowledged the genocide that is obviously and clearly now going on in Gaza, and I'm sorry, if you don't think there's a genocide going on in Gaza, I don't know what you're looking at. I don't know what you're looking at. The entire Gaza Strip is being leveled. People are being driven off the land. What is it, over 40,000 people are dead? But they want to convince us that the most tragic day in the history of humanity was October 7th. And yes, they literally are trying to convince us of that. I don't know what people are seeing if they don't see a genocide in Gaza. I have no idea. And the heartlessness around all of it and the dehumanization of the Palestinians, it was just so effing gross. And I hesitate to call it a great thing because it's not a great thing. This is a tragedy, man. But I think one of the things that, and how it's funny, I was actually just talking to someone earlier today about this. One of the great things that I appreciated that happened after October 7th is all of a sudden the dividing line became very, very, very clear in the online space. You had people who were shilling for Israel, and you had people who were telling the damn truth, and a lot of them paying consequences for telling the truth, because it is not a popular thing to go against Israel in any way, shape, or form. And so Of course, I can't keep my big mouth shut. I mean, they canceled me for less than what I've done since October 7th. I'll tell you that. Like back in 2021, I'm sure you guys remember this. I was having like a 2-hour like spiritual discussion on Twitter where it was just like this ongoing back and forth. It was like it was questions about morality and ethics and things like that. And I was being a little trolly, and I fully admit I was being a little trolly. Like I wanted to piss off Christians, and I said something to the effect of like Hitler went to heaven, and there are spiritual reasons why people would want to consider why people would want to experience like great levels of oppression. I didn't say the Holocaust was good. I didn't say Hitler was a good guy. I didn't say any of those things. And I was massively canceled by the right for this. And stupid, naive me, I thought at the time that the right was where we could have civil dialogue and discussion. And I was like, this is not a dangerous belief. I'm sorry. It is not a dangerous belief that hell doesn't exist, that it was a human created thing, so no one can go there. It's not a dangerous belief that God loves everyone. It's not a dangerous belief that maybe before we're born, and this is from a spiritual perspective, we choose whatever experiences we're going to have here for spiritual growth, which should actually be, I think, a goal of everyone to grow spiritually in this lifetime. Maybe I'm just silly. The whole thing was so disproportional and so bizarre. But I had hit pieces written on me. I had Ian Miles Chung commenting on my mental health in Newsweek, as though Ian Miles Chung is remotely qualified to comment on my mental health. All this bullshit, 19 rounds of bullshit, because of one tweet that was taken out of context of a larger conversation, and PragerU threw me under the bus, canceled me. I don't know that they planted the hit piece in Newsweek, but I wouldn't be surprised if they planted the hit piece in Newsweek. Someone planted the hit piece in Newsweek. At the time, I didn't think much about it because, to be honest, I was kind of ready to be done with the PragerU stuff. I had already moved on with my life at that point. I was like, "Oh, fuck this video." Like, I had to hear about that video all the time. It had come out a year and a half prior. It wasn't really relevant anymore. So at the time, I was like, you know what? Thank heavens for small favors. Got canceled by PragerU. Now I look back in retrospect now, and I see the situation completely differently than I did then. And I was like, "Oh shit, girl, that should really have been your wake up point, wasn't it?" It was kind of like when my friend went to prison for a crime he didn't commit because he was massively railroaded by the federal government. And this happened to me in my early 20s, and I watched it happen, and I knew what happened because I was not directly involved, but I was on the periphery of all that stuff, and I knew what was going on, and I knew the story that the government was telling was not remotely related to what was going on at all in any way. And I watched the federal government put my friend in prison for 8.5 years for a crime he didn't commit. It's like I look back at that moment and I was like, that's the moment you really should have become a libertarian. That moment when I saw, literally, I saw the arrest warrant signed by Alberto Gonzalez, the attorney general at the time. Like I saw that. I had a massive panic attack on my living room floor when I still lived in Vermont. I was like, that's when you should have become a libertarian. And I look back at the massive cancellation that I experienced for having a spiritual discussion in which Hitler was brought up as a hypothetical example to troll people and to be a little antagonistic, but not to say he was a good person or that the Holocaust was a good thing. I never said that. And I look back at that, I was like, that's the moment you should have woken up to what was going on with Israel. But no, I'm hard-headed, and so sometimes it takes more than one knock on the head in order to get me to wake up to something. But once I figure something out, I zone in on it pretty fucking quick. Anyway, I bring this up because after October 7th, a month and a week or so after October 7th, I tweeted this. How long until there's an article on the Daily Wire asserting that saying Christ is king is a dog whistle, the same as saying Hitler should have finished the job? And it's one of those things where I look today, or specifically yesterday. Yesterday, when Jeremy Boring posted a whole long tweet, Jeremy Boring being the CEO of the Daily Wire. Yesterday, when Jeremy Boring posted a whole long tweet about why saying Christ is king is anti-Semitic? God damn, did I look like a prophet. I looked like a fortune teller. And I'm gonna own that. I mean, listen, man, if we're honest about it, this was not one of the harder predictions to make, right? I think most of us could have seen this coming a mile and a half away, but I was pretty excited that this tweet actually went viral yesterday. It has almost 250,000 views on it, and most of those were from yesterday. Because everyone was retweeting it over and over and over and over and over and over and over again after Jeremy Boring decided to take the position that Christ is king is anti-Semitic. And so then because I had all this stuff going viral in the Christ is king discussion on Twitter, it's true. I'm basically, hang on, it's true. I'm basically one of the missing Bible prophets. I must have been a Bible prophet in a past life.